AITA for refusing to get a second job? My husband and I both started our own businesses 20 years ago. They were moderately successful in that. We weren't rich, but our financial needs have always been met up until the last 5 years. My husband's business is what most would consider a luxury service. When times are tough, people do without said service. My husband tried several things to keep his business afloat, including taking out some loans and made some bad investments that have left us in not the best financial state. At this point, it costs more to operate his business than he is profiting from it. The writing has been on the wall the past several months, and he's finally agreed it's time to close the doors. Now, I totally understand that this is something that is upsetting to him. This business was his dream, and you can't just let go of that mentally in a snap, especially not after 20 years. I have been very supportive and let him vent. I have encouraged him to go to therapy, though he has turned me down. I want to be as sensitive as possible. I wish my business were enough to keep us afloat until he was ready to figure out what he wanted to do next. Unfortunately, with all the bills we have, we can't afford for him to sit around and not do anything. Neither of us went to college, which does mean his options are limited. Going back to school isn't financially possible right now, nor does he want to do that. He'd have to have a boss, potentially work weekends and weird hours, all the things you get to avoid when you have your own business of 20 years. I get why this isn't appealing to him, but unfortunately, it's what he has to do. My husband has really pushed back on getting a new job. I've tried to be as sympathetic as possible, but again, we can't afford for him to sit home all day. We've talked about it several times. I show sympathy and empathy. I, again, tell him to seek therapy. It always ends in an argument where I am told I am being unreasonable. The other day, my sister-in-law, his brother's wife, came over to talk to me. She spoke to me as if I were 5 years old and said I needed to give him a break. She said that I cannot expect him to go back to having a boss after 20 years. She suggested that I get a second job. With the hours I work, I'd never get to see my kids or husband at that point. I said I'm not going to do that. If my business went under, of course I'd go and get a different job, but it is unreasonable for everyone to expect me to work all these hours while my husband does nothing. His help with the housework and the kids has dropped since he had to close the business, so I doubt me working would change that, so I'd be working 7 days a week, plus all that. My sister-in-law just kept telling me that this is a sacrifice I should be making, and that I am being unreasonable. Everyone else seems to agree, including my husband. I feel insane. Am I the asshole for not wanting to get a second job and expecting him to get one?